Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm going to be giving you my picks for the ultimate Commander deck for every single color out there. What colors out there are represented best by what commanders? Let's jump into it. Now, keep in mind, these are all just my picks, and your picks might differ, and that's completely fine, but when I was going about picking these, I was trying to pick ones that were great representations of their color and what you want to do in that color, and also ones that be great for a more, well, beginner perspective too, or an advanced perspective as well, one that works for every kind of perspective. And in blue, Talrin Sky Summoner is an oldie but a goodie, a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 4 mana in blue. When you cast an instant sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. It's simple, it's effective, it's absolutely amazing. It is just a commander that, again, has withstood the test of time, and for good reason. Spellslinger, there you go. You cast all the different kinds of instant sorceries, you get a giant army of flying drakes, and you take over the game from there. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and again, whether you're a beginner or an expert, it can be a really fun, amazing build around this one. Of course, just very simple cards out there like Opt. There are so many great cantrips out there, Opt obviously being a great one. Instant for a single blue mana, scry 1, draw a card. So, being able to essentially just say, oh, okay, whenever I want, out of nowhere, just 1 mana, okay, replaces itself, and also like some nice card selection with that scry 1 too. But of course, on top of that, I make a 2/2 flyer, again, out of nowhere for just 1 mana. It's super efficient, it's super effective, and it's super fun. And it can be even more fun, though, too, when you utilize cards like Frantic Search, an instant for 3 mana in blue, draw 2, discard 2, untap up to 3 lands, basically a free spell. Or even a spell that could potentially grant you even more mana, depending on if you have any lands that can tap for more than 1. So yeah, this is a crazy good play, again, just out of nowhere. Oh, okay, by the way, free spell, free 2/2 flyer, and I get to dig down into my deck to get potentially even better cards as well. Of course, you can double up on your production with something like a Murmuring Mystic, a 1/5 human wizard for 4 mana in blue. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. So again, being able to cast spell after spell after spell, spell singing left and right, and then also really taking advantage of that, not just with your commander, but also going even wider with something like this. And those birds might be slightly smaller, but of course, we've got ways that we can take advantage of that and make them even bigger with something like Favorable Winds. And a champ for 2 mana, creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So again, when we are going wide with tokens, especially flying tokens, thanks to our commander or Murmuring Mystic, or a combination of both, of course, yeah, we can make that army hit for even more. Yeah, I mean, basically, again, doubling up the Murmuring Mystic tokens and getting a nice little boost to our drakes, making them 3/3 flyers, which can be quite a bit of damage going through. Basically, a lightning bolt's worth of damage every single time we swing. Next up, though, how about another flyer that can help us out with Mocking Sprite, a 2/1 fairy rogue with flying for 3 mana in total. Instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Again, we're going to be casting a lot of instant sorceries, many of them low to the ground cantrips. This one actually even reduces the cost of slightly more expensive spells, or again, something like a Frantic Search. So we're actually even gaining mana on that one. But yeah, being able to save a lot of mana throughout the game, this can really help us do just that and cast even more spells in a single turn. And speaking of casting spells on turns, well, Wavebreak Hippocamp is a great creature to help us out. A 2/2 Horsefish for 3 mana in blue. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. Again, with a lot of our Spellslinger type approach, we're going to have a ton of instants, and we're going to be able to play on our opponent's turns. And by doing so, now, on top of, even if they're just a simple cantrip that replaces itself, now we're actually drawing 2 instead of just drawing 1, replacing the card for ones that aren't cantrips, and doubling up the cantrips that we do have too. So, yeah, our hand is always going to be chock full of amazing goodness. Speaking of which, Curiosity Crafter, there's a lot of other great ways to gain card advantage as well. Bite Nefasa type cards, Reconnaissance type cards as well. That being said, a 3/3 Bird Wizard with flying for 4 mana in blue, you have maximum hand size. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yeah, creature tokens, we're going to be making a lot of those, obviously, and being able to go through and hit our opponents for a ton. yeah, that's going to be great. And also on top of that, benefiting from doing so by actually drawing a ton of cards as well. So again, just taking in mind that little cantrip that we cast, the little op that we cast, cool. We drew a card with that. It replaced itself already. We made that 2/2. And now that is repeat card advantage for us throughout the game when it's connecting with opponents. Of course, when it comes to repeat card advantage, though, Case the Ransack Lab does everything for us. Instant source spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. If you solve this, you're going to be doing so by casting 4 more instant source spells this turn. You can pretty easily do that with this type of a strategy. And when it is solved, whenever you cast an instant source spell, draw a card. So cost reduction, which is massive, and of course, absurd card advantage. Again, turning every single one of our instant sorceries into a cantrip that is huge. But of course, we've got another way to gain some card advantage as well. Something like Precognition Field or like a Future Sight can be absolutely massive. Enchantment for 4 mana in blue. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast the top card of your library. It's an instant or sorcery card, and you can pay 3 to exile it. Again, the vast majority of spells in this deck are going to be those instant sorcery spells, and we can take advantage of them with something like this, basically making the top of our library kind of like an extended hand, like a secondary hand that we can dig down into, and yeah, get rid of cards off the top when we don't need them. Overall, though, again, Talrun has withstood the test of time, in my opinion, is the ultimate blue commander because, well, it does what blue wants to do. Cast a bunch of spells, instant speed interactions, and being able to just draw a ton of cards. You do all that, and Talrun will take care of all the rest, making you a massive army. It's super simple, it's super effective, it's super fun. Make sure you check this one out. Next up, my pick for the ultimate red commander is Zada Hedron Grinder. Now, I kind of went back and forth with this one between Krenko and this, and my heart is just with Zada. One of my very first decks I ever made was Zada, and I think that it really encapsulates not only the kind of go wide potential of red, but also the chaotic nature of red in a way too, and just the big explosive all-in approaches that also can just destroy your opponents. Yeah, I think Zada takes all of that and then some. A 3/3 Goblin ally for 4 mana in red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada Hedron Grinder, copy that spell for each other creature you control that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. Basically, again, it is a commander where you go wide, which, yeah, that seems very red, but then you're casting essentially certain spells out there that, again, maybe on their face don't seem all that great, but when they are kind of replicated to all of your creatures, that is a massive thing, and you can have some huge plays. You can utilize combat tricks, you can utilize pump effects. There's a lot of ways you can take advantage of Zada and do some really exciting things. And again, a bit of chaos, a bit of excitement, a bit of go wide. It's all that red wants to do, all encapsulated in one amazing commander that, again, players might actually kind of just downplay how good it is because of, you know, that little uncommon symbol on it, essentially. I mean, oh, it's just an uncommon commander. Yeah, Zada is nothing when it comes to uncommon. It is definitely not uncommon. It is such a unique commander and such a powerhouse for the right build. You can have a lot of fun with it, too. First up, though, Dragon Fodder. Cards like this, we're getting more and more of them. There's a lot of ways to make a lot of low-to-ground tokens. Source for 2 mana. Very simple, very effective. Make 2 1/1s. You want to go wide. You want to get a lot of targets out there for Zada. Next up, Young Pyromancer. 2/1 Human Shaman for 2 mana in red. Whenever you cast an instant or spell, create a 1/1 for elemental creature token. Basically, your Talrand of red. So being able to, again, cast a bunch of spells, you're going to be doing that as well. A slightly different approach than Talrand, but what you're going to be doing is the same with this. Going wide as quickly as you can, getting a lot of creatures out there, so you have a lot of replication potential. So then when you cast a card like, oh, say, Expedite, a simple 1 mana cantrip, instant for a single red mana, target creature gains haste till have turn, draw a card. Now all of a sudden, instead of just targeting, again, just Zada, you are spreading that out to every single one of your creatures. Again, already a good card, but now all of a sudden it is Ancestral Recall plus so much more. Again, if you've got, say, 6 creatures in play, you're spending 1 mana to draw 6 cards, which is absurd. Of course, there are other ways to generate card advantage card selection as well. Titan Strength is a fantastic one. Target creature gets +3/+1 until have turn, scry 1. Again, when you see target creature in this, just picture your entire team gets +3/+1, scry 1 for every creature you have, because that's basically what you're doing. You're replicating this out to all your creatures, you're pumping them a ton, and also, again, you're digging down into your deck a lot with that scry 1. Or how about Blazing Crescendo? Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. So again, taking advantage of Impulse Draw. Basically, temporary card advantage, but still, with a commander like this, you've got a lot of low-to-the-ground things to cast, and you're going to take a lot of advantage of those cards. It can just be game-ending on that turn, getting access to that many cards, on top of the awesome pump effect, which could already just end the game. How about Fists of Flame, which takes us even further, though? An instant for 2 mana in red, draw a card. So again, the potential for that is huge already. On top of that, until end of turn, target creature gains trample, gets +1/+0 for each card you've drawn this turn. An absurd effect for this deck. Again, we can very easily draw 10 plus cards just by casting a simple spell like, Expedite. Being able to then cast something like this and then all of a sudden be able to draw down even further and then pump so much more, we can turn even the smallest creatures out there that we have into deadly forces. Next up, though, Sudden Breakthrough. Yeah, these cards, when we first started getting them, were definitely a breakthrough for Zada. Instant for 2 mana in red. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. Create a treasure token. Now, the pump effect is very nice, of course. But yeah, this is where things get absolutely crazy with a Zada deck because you are making treasure tokens. You are saying, you know what? I've got 10 creatures in play. I cast this 2 mana spell to target Zada. Targets everything now. All of a sudden, they're pumped, which is great. But even more importantly, I get 10 treasures. I spent 2 mana to get 10 treasures. It's basically a massive ritual effect. And of course, then I can cast, something to draw cards with Expedite, get even more of these spells that make me even more treasures, and you see where this is going. A giant, massive, explosive, chaotic turn. What's not to love about that? Other ways to gain some value, though, as well when it comes to mana. Runaway Steamkin. A 1/1 elemental for 2 mana in red. Whenever you cast a red spell, if it has fewer than 3 counters on it, put a counter on it. By removing 3 counters from it, you add red, red, red. So basically, storing up those counters, that's great, and being able to utilize them as you're casting spells to then just get mana back. Again, we've got a lot of low-to-the-ground spells for this kind of a commander. Be able to get mana back for them. It can even just kind of have that at parity, where you're like, okay, I cast Expedite. Basically, is getting a mana back for that. It's essentially a free spell. Speaking of free spells, though, Kari Zev's Expertise, my favorite card for Zada. Source for 2 mana in red. Gain control of target creature or vehicle until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste until end of turn. You may cast a card converted mana cost 2 or less for your hand without paying its mana cost. Now, this is a bit of a weird interaction in Zada, but you actually just want to target Zada with this. You don't really care that you already control Zada. You don't care that you grant haste. I mean, that can be nice, obviously, if you want to grant haste to other creatures. But what matters is basically for every single creature you have, you get to cast a card from your hand with converted mana cost 2 or less for free. So again, if you've got 10 creatures in play, congratulations, you're casting 10 spells potentially for free. Absolutely crazy, explosive, game-ending turns with this one. You can also utilize really weird cards like Spawning Breath. Instant for 2 mana in red. 1 damage target creature or player, you get a 0/1 Eldrazi that you can sacrifice for mana. So with this one, you probably want to pump your little creatures just a little bit. Again, like something like a Titan Strength, which can grant, an extra 1 toughness. That's great. Being able to, again, then target all your creatures, ping them for 1 damage. Even the smallest ones then can survive. And basically, you double up your army. You say, oh, I've got 10 creatures in play. Now, all of a sudden, I get 10 Eldrazi spawns, and now I've got 20 creatures in play. So when I'm casting my Expedites, oh my goodness, even more cards drawn. You can even use things like Dreadmaw's Ire for removal. Instant for a single red mana. Until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +2/+2, gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat to a player, destroy target artifact that player controls. Being able to, again, pump your team, get damage through, and on top of that, just decimate opponents' boards. What's not to love about that? And of course, unexpected fun times with a card like Downhill Charge, an instant for 3 mana in red. But instead of actually casting it, you can just sacrifice a mountain, and of course you're willing to do that. You're chaotic red, right? Target creature gets +X/+0 until after X the number of mountains you control. A mass pump effect, again, out of nowhere to pump your entire team and finish off the game. Zada is the perfect combination of everything that is red. I absolutely love Zada, and I do believe Zada is the ultimate red commander. Moving on to green. Now, nothing screams ultimate commander deck to me in green like a power-packed commander like Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma. Yet another uncommon commander that can get slept on. A 4/3 bear for 4 mana in green. Creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. Whenever Goreclaw attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets ++1 and gains trample until end of turn. This is a commander that does so much for you. 4 cost commander that can reduce your creature spells by 2 is absolutely absurd. You're going to save so much mana throughout the game. And on top of that, that attack trigger is huge. A nice little pump effect, but most importantly, trample. Granting those massive creatures that might not have any evasion or any way to get damage through, that way to get damage through. So get a ton of creatures out and swing. Power is what matters when it comes to green, and that is all you care about when it comes to Goreclaw. Power, well, and also value, because you've got creatures like Outcaster Trailblazer, a fantastic card for this commander. A 4/2, and again, I will just mention right now, every single one of these creatures I'm going to mention has power 4 or greater, so that cost reduction, again, will apply, and this one will cost you a single mana, just a green. That being said, hey, when it enters the battlefield, guess what? You had 1 mana of any color. So you get to actually just replace that mana that you spent. This is basically a free creature for this commander, and it is huge. Whenever the creature power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under control, draw a card. So much card advantage from this one creature. Again, that is basically free. One that is nearly free, Spinner of Souls. A 4/3 Spider Spirit with Reach for 3 mana in green, but again, just a single green mana for Goreclaw. Whenever another non-token creature control dies, you may reveal cards to the top of your library to reveal a creature card. With a card in your hand, the rest of them on your library in a random order. Being able to, again, replace your creatures when they get taken out, that is huge as well. So yeah, again, just a simple 1 mana creature that can be a threat itself, a good defender as well, and one that can just give you so much advantage throughout the game. Speaking of advantages though, how about Sirach the Hunt Caller, a 5/4 human warrior for, again, what would be 4, but is just 2 with this commander. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, yeah, you're going to be there. Target creature control gains haste until end of turn. So this helps you be very aggressive, granting haste to a brand new creature you just got into play. And again, a 5/4 for just 2 mana. You're going to get to that 8 power just with this and your commander combined. Next up, Yavin Nature's Herald, a 4/4 Elf Shaman with Flash for, again, basically just 2 mana with this commander. You may cast green creature cards as though they had Flash. Yeah, now your spells all of a sudden basically have Flash. It allows you to play around so many things, to be very flexible and do some really crazy things. Next up, though, how about getting some damage through? Bellowing Tangleworm. We already talked about some trampling. We also have some other fantastic effects like this. A 4/4 Worm with Intimidate for 5 mana, but again, basically just 3. Other green creatures you control have Intimidate, so again, they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or green creatures. So, yeah, your opponents are in big trouble. Again, not only do you have a way to make your creatures near unblockable against, well, certain strategies definitely unblockable, but also, again, you've got trample, so you're going to be getting damage through no matter what, basically. You definitely will be doing so with something like Challenger Troll. A 6/5 Troll for just 5 mana, which again is just 3 with this commander. Each creature controlled power 4 or greater can be blocked by more than 1 creature. Yeah, forcing your opponents to have to block with just 1 creature when your creatures are basically guaranteed to be bigger than them, and also, again, have trample. You're going to be just a menace to your opponent. You're going to be getting damage through it. You can be super aggressive with this. Speaking of aggressive, though, Thunderfoot Baloth, a 5/5 beast with trample. It costs 6 mana, but again, just 4 basically with this commander. It's got Lieutenant. If you've got your commander in play, it and other creatures you control get +2/+2, and they're also going to gain that trample. So even if Goreclaw is not attacking, they've got that trample too, which is quite nice. But yeah, a nice bump effect for your entire team for, again, basically a 4-cost 5/5 that is basically, well, a 7/7 with trample that pumps your entire team. That is huge. Speaking of power, though, of course, you can utilize just massive things like Galta Primal Hunger, a 12/12 Elder Dinosaur for, well, what would be 12 mana, but never is. Costs excess to cast for X the total power creatures you control, and it's got trample. So again, even if you just say reduce this cost by 8, it's going to be reduced by an extra 2 thanks to your commander. So you'll get there to just the 2 costs, which you're pretty much always going to be paying for it. You can even with this commander utilize something as derpy as Terrian World Tyrant if you want to. A 9/7 Dinosaur Ooze for 5 mana, but again, with this commander, it is a 3 mana 9/7. Sure, it's vanilla, but again, your commander grants that trample, so it's basically a 10/8 trampler for just 3 mana. You could have the biggest creature on the board, again, for just 3 mana and absolutely take over the game with this derpy Dinosaur Ooze. And of course, slightly less derpy, Unnatural Growth. You got plenty of great ways to take advantage of power in green. This is a great one to do so. Chamber for 5 mana in green. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. So again, you're getting out all that amazing power in play. You're getting it out super quickly. You're being very aggressive. And this says, you know what? Let's double up our efficiency. Let's make things even more powerful. Let's take over the game and let's just dominate our opponents. Again, Goreclaw to me is the perfect encapsulation of what green is. Green is about power. Green is about aggression. Green is about getting out there, getting creatures out there, swinging and hitting your opponents in the face. That is what Goreclaw wants to do and is great at. So yeah, a fantastic commander, and in my opinion, again, the perfect commander, the ultimate commander for a green deck. Next up, though, with black, let's move on to the opposite end of things for a commander like Shirei Shizo's Caretaker, which cares about power, but very specifically, little power. A 2/2 spirit for 5 mana in black. Whenever a creature of power 1 or less is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step if Shirei Shizo's Caretaker is still on the battlefield. This is a commander that is, again, all about specific amounts of tiny power and winning through attrition. Sacrifices, all the sacrifices that are necessary to win the game, you shall make. That is what it means to be in mono black. So yeah, you're willing to do that. You're willing to go down as long as you take your opponents down with you. You take out all your creatures again and again and again, and they just keep coming back. They keep persisting, and they keep just decimating your opponents with the amount of value that you are generating from their demise. And yeah, there's plenty of great ones to pick from. Again, you might think that your pool's pretty limited when it comes to 1 power or less creatures, but there are a ton. I mean, first of all, Viserys here. You need a great sacrifice outlet. You need a great way to sacrifice those little 1 power creatures whenever you want to, and this is a fantastic one at doing that. A 1/1 vampire wizard for a single mana. Sacrifice a creature, scry 1. Very simple, very effective, free sacrifice outlet that can actually sacrifice itself too, and basically you just keep sacrificing all your creatures, they go away, then on the next end step, they come back. Then you do it again. Then on the next end step, they come back. Then you do it again. And you see where this is going. So much value to be had. And again, this generates you value too. It helps you scry 1 a lot. Dig down into your deck and get the cards that you need. One of those cards you might need, Greedy Freebooter. A simple 1/1 human pirate for a single black mana. When it dies, scry 1, create a treasure token. So again, more card selection, which is fantastic. But on top of that, whenever this is dying, which is going to happen a ton, again, up to 4 times with each trip around the table, you are making a treasure token. You are adding to your vast reserves of mana, essentially, and just keep adding and adding and adding, making so much mana throughout the game with something like this that your head will spin, and your opponents are going to be in big trouble. They're especially going to be in big trouble when you've got something like Snarling Gorehound. Again, so many low-to-the-ground, value-centric creatures that you can take so much advantage of. A 1/1 menacing dog for a single black mana. Whenever the creature power 2 or less enters battlefield under control, surveil 1. 2 is generous again. We only care about 1. We're down for that, all right? 1 or less, so we're going to be there. And all of a sudden, whenever any other creature enters the battlefield under control, basically, we surveil 1. We dig down into our deck so deep, we can get to the exact cards that we need. And of course, we get things in our graveyard as well. And we also can, well, take advantage of certain things in our graveyard that, well, maybe want to be there, or maybe we can get back out with reanimation effects. There's a lot of great ways to take advantage of this. Speaking of which, Dusk Legion Zealot. Very simple, very effective. A 1/1 Vampire Soldier for 2 mana in black. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, you lose 1 life. 1 life for 1 card is well worth it. And of course, we've got ways to make up that life loss and then some. Yeah, again, with each trip on the table, being able to draw potentially 4 cards with this, that is huge. On the other end of things, if we want to get a bit nasty, we are in mono black, we can do that. A 1/1 for 2 mana, we got Yarick Spend Lurker. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent exiles a card from their hand. You can also pump it, but don't really care about that too much. What we care about is literally ETB. Hey, opponents, get rid of things. There's also things like Burglar Rat that make them discard as well. Whatever direction you want to go, or both directions, you can just decimate your opponent's hands to the point where they're going to be top decking and praying that they hit something off the top to stop you. And if they don't, well, it's probably not going to happen. They're probably not going to stop you because you're just going to keep just removing everything they have. Speaking of which, Abyssal Gatekeeper. I love this one. A 1/1 for 2 mana. Put a grave from play. Each player chooses and buries a creature they control. Basically, when this dies, everyone sacrifices a creature. So, yeah, you're fine with sacrificing creatures. That's actually what you want to do. But forcing your opponents to sacrifice creature after creature after creature, they're going to have nothing left in play. Or you can go a little more targeted if you want. Bone Shredder, a 1/1 with flying and echo for 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. So you can take out so many things with this. And when it comes to taking out things, you can also take out opponents. Something like Sling Gang Lieutenant, a 1/1. When it ETBs, you make 2 1/1 goblins. You can sacrifice goblins, including this one itself, and make target player lose 1 life, and you gain 1 life. This is 3 creatures in 1, and potentially, 3 life loss for an opponent, and, there you go as well. Life gain 2. That being said, you take advantage of other death triggers too. You get a lot of creatures in play with this, and of course, you drain opponents quite quickly with it too. And when it comes to draining opponents, a lot of great low to the ground. Again, 1 power creatures like Zulper Cutthroat, a 1/1 human rogue ally for 2 mana in black. Whenever it and another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So yeah, you've got a lot of avenues to victory with this. So many different fun things that you can do with this commander. This is a commander that, again, to me, encapsulates everything that you want to do with a mono black deck. You don't really care about power in the way that, a green deck might, where it's like big creatures, swing. You care about power in a different way where there's a little bit of nuance to it, where you're like, okay, I've got my low power creatures, and I want to win through attrition. I want to win through sacrificing them. I want to win through value. I want to win by, again, making those necessary sacrifices to win the game. So again, the ultimate commander in black to me is Sheree, Chizo's Caretaker. Next up, when it comes to mono white, I picked God Eternal Oketra for the ultimate mono white commander. This is a commander that can go wide and kind of go tall all in one, like a middle range tall, let's say that. A 3/6 zombie god with double strike, and of course, double strike, very mono white as well, right? For 5 mana in white, whenever you cast a creature spell, you get a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. On top of that, when this dies or is put exile from the battlefield, you may put it in its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So there's a little bit of, recursion there if you need it. That being said, what matters is, go super wide, super fast, super awesomely with a great zombie warrior army that, again, is vigilant, allowing you to be aggressive and stay back on defense as well. So again, you got that token army, and you can just keep swinging again and again and again. And speaking of which, you can take advantage of really off-the-wall cards like something like White Mane Lion, a 2/2 cat with flash for 2 mana in white, enters the battlefield, returning a creature you control back to its owner's hand. This is the perfect card for a commander like God Eternal Oketra, because it can actually bounce itself. You just cast it, you bounce itself. All of a sudden you do it again and again and again at flash speed, making a 4/4 basically for 2 mana, or if you've got a cost reducer, even less obviously, again and again and again. And of course you can take advantage of other ETB things as well. It's a great way to just absolutely take over the game and to go super wide with a commander that wants you to cast creature spell after creature spell after creature spell. There's other ones as well, like Core Skyfisher, enters the battlefield, returning permanent you control back to its owner's hand. Again, this can bounce itself back to your hand, which is great. There's other ones that bounce other creatures too. Make sure you're taking advantage of all those amazing creatures. And again, if you got them, cost reducers as well, or just ones that replace themselves, like Spirit Companion. A very simple 1/1 dog for 2 mana. Enters the battlefield, draw a card. So essentially, you play this for 2 mana, you replace itself, and also you get a 4/4 vigilant zombie warrior. What's not to love about that? Also, again, when it comes to, taking advantage of these small creatures, Bygone Bishop is a great way to do that. A 2/3 Spirit Cleric with flying for 3 mana. Whenever you cast a creature spell, converted mana cost 3 or less, investigate. That's going to be the vast majority of our creature spells. And again, if we've got something like White Mane Lion that we can keep casting again and again and again, we can store up a lot of clues with this. Or how about just draw the cards right away with Mentor of the Meek, a 2/2 human soldier for 3 mana in white. Whenever the creature you control power 2 less enters, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Well worth it to draw a lot of cards with this throughout the game. Or how about Rumor Gatherer, which just helps you for free. A 2/1 elf wizard for 3 mana. Whenever the creature enters the battlefield you control, scry 1. So again, not card advantage, but great card selection. That being said, if this is the second time this ability resolved this turn, draw a card instead. So much value to be had. So many ways to actually just take advantage of this and dig down into your deck, not just with scry, but also with card draw too. How about those some utility creatures like Selfless Spirit, a 2/1 Spirit Cleric with flying for 2 mana. Sacrifice it, creature control gain indestructible until end of turn. A great way to protect our entire team. And again, just 2 mana. We got a 2/1 flyer, and on top of that, we get a 4/4 vigilant creature as well. That is huge. Again, and just have this on the board for whenever you need to actually protect your entire team. When it comes to that as well, Odric Lunarch Marshal, if we've got a creature out there that's got an indestructible, that's amazing. But at the very least, we can spread out some incredible keywords already. A 3/3 human soldier for 4 mana in white. At the beginning of each combat, creature control gain first strike until end of turn. If you control a creature has first strike. The same is true for, here we go, Flying, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Skulk, Trample, and Vigilance. And keep in mind, again, our commander has Double Strike, and our zombies have Vigilance. So that means that every single one of our creatures is going to have both Double Strike and Vigilance, which again, even at the very least, with just our zombies considered, 4/4 Vigilant Double Striking zombies just by playing, again, a simple, say, 2-mana spell like a White Mane Lion again and again and again, that is absolutely huge. Basically hitting for 8 damage, my goodness. Speaking of that, even more damage potentially with something like Inspiring Leader, a background enchantment for 3 mana. Mana creatures you own have, creature tokens you control get +2/+2. Being able to pump your entire team of tokens, yeah, that's quite huge. Again, now when you're playing essentially any of your creature spells, you're making a 6/6 Vigilant creature every single time. Or you know what, you can pump your entire team as well. There's plenty of great anthems in white, like Dictate of Iliad. Flash it in, creature control at +2/+2, so a nice combat trick with this one as well. And speaking of tricks, you can even utilize a really weird off-the-wall card like Scapegoat, which sees like basically no play, and I love when commanders can do that. Instant for a single white mana, sacrifice 1 creature, return any number of target creature you control back to its owner's hand. So essentially being able to say, you know what? I'd like to replay these creatures. I'd like to get those ETBs again. I'd like to get those cast triggers again. Or I just want to save them from a board wipe. Being able to sacrifice one of your many creatures, which you will have a ton of them, obviously, and then just return all those creatures back to your hand for just 1 mana, that is absolutely huge. So again, a commander that to me is all about a lot of the things that make mono white so fun. Okay, go wide, mid-range creatures that actually can be back on defense as well and do some really crazy things and take advantage of some really off-the-wall cards. I absolutely love it. God Eternal Ketra, you are the ultimate mono white commander. Okay, I'm throwing in a bonus on this episode for you as well, though, because technically, colorless isn't a color, but it kind of is because it's like mono colorless. Okay, so we're going to go with that. And the commander that I picked again is a bit off the wall, but one that I think you can get really, really, really into in a lot of fun. Let's go with the Capitoline Triad. A 7/7 God Artifice for 10 mana. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each historic card in your graveyard, so you can cast it for quite cheap or even free. And it says, exile any number of historic cards from your graveyard with total mana value 30 or greater. You get an emblem with creatures you control, base power toughness 9/9. So this is kind of like a mini game. And essentially, when it comes to colorless, things are kind of off the wall with the types of commanders that you've got out there. And I think that the ultimate commander in colorless is, you know what? Historic mini game, and utilize a vast array of cards out there that are pretty janky and pretty terrible for most decks out there, but are incredible with this one. And again, basically turning your entire army into 9/9s. What's not to love about that? I mean, you can utilize things like Skybox Fairy, a 4/4 vehicle of flying for 5 mana, crew 2. You can cycle it away though for just 2 mana. That's right. Cycling with this commander is incredible because, well, again, you're just replacing the card, which is great for cheap, and you also get this in your graveyard. And with just even this one, you're 1/6 of the way there when it comes to being able to utilize that amazing effect to go get that emblem, just by getting a 5 mana value card in your graveyard that is historic. Or how about Shardless Outlander? Again, basic land cycling for this one, replaces itself with a land, 6/5 Construct Scout with trample for 7 mana. This is, not the worst thing to have in play either, obviously, being a 6/5 with trample, and then when your commander activates, 9/9 with trample too. That being said, yeah, early on, just go get that land, make sure you keep your land drops, and get this into your graveyard. Next up, Sojourner's Companion, again, very similar, 4/4 Salamander, affinity for artifacts, 7 mana, artifact land cycling. Go get a great artifact land with it, get it in your graveyard, have that 7 mana value in the graveyard there for your commander. Or again, if your commander's already activated and you've got that emblem, play this basically for free for the most part, essentially, right? And again, it's going to be a 9/9. Even a card like Runaway Boulder. No offense, Runaway Boulder, but you're kind of a garbage throw-in card. But you're awesome with this commander, and I love it. Artifact with flash for 6 mana. There's battlefield 6 damage target creature opponent controls, cycling for 2. So pretty inefficient removal. That being said, when it comes to just this commander, you're like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. I get to cycle it away, get it in my graveyard, and I'm 1/5 of the way there when it comes to my commander's activation, which is game ending. Yes, please. Or how about a card like Millikin, a 0/1 construct for 2 mana. Tap Millie card, add a colorless. So this one can help you by milling cards, getting those historic cards into your graveyard, and actually making it so that your commander can very easily activate. And of course, when it does activate, again, this tiny little 0/1 that is not a threat at all becomes a massive 9/9 threat for you. Or when it comes to milling things, mill a little bit more with Perpetual Timepiece. Artifact for 2, very simple, very effective. Tap, mill 2. You can also shuffle things back in your library, but you don't really care too much about that with this kind of a strategy. But a nice option to have if you need to panic, save some things. That being said, Keening Stone. Artifact for 6, 5 mana tap. Target player basically doubles the number of cards in their graveyard. You mill that many again and again and again. This can very easily, very quickly get you to that amount that you need to get to. And of course, maybe even make your commander for free in the process as well. And of course, when it comes to the process of this deck, you can utilize some amazing utility lands like Foundry of the Consoles. You can tap for colorless. No downside to this one coming to play tapped or anything. It does not matter. So you just have this in the deck, you put it in play, and then once your commander activates, I can pay 5 to tap and sacrifice this to make 2 1/1 Thopters with flying, which again are not that big of threats, of course, at all as 1/1s, but when your commander activates, here's the thing. Everything is a 9/9, and now you've got some 9/9 flyers. Good luck, opponents. You're in trouble. Guardian Idol. Again, yet another way for you to ramp, another way for you to actually get some value early on. Artifact for 2, enters tap, taps for a colorless. Very simple, very effective. That being said, pay 2 becomes a 2/2 until end of turn, which again, thanks to your commander, is a 9/9. So having a mana rock in the waiting that can become a massive threat, what's not to love about that? Or a mana dork like Ornithopter of Paradise. Again, a simple 0/2 flyer that can tap for 1 mana of any color, which is nice. Costs 2 mana, but again becomes a massive 9/9 flying threat when you need it. Or make a bunch of threats with Glaring Fleshraker, a 2/2 Eldrazi drone for 3 mana. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you make a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn that you can sacrifice 4 mana. And whenever their colorless creature is battlefield your control, it deals 1 damage each opponent. So, some nice extra damage there, which is great. That being said, also, make a massive army. Utilize them for mana when you need to. But of course, that massive army, which just starts off as 0/1s, all of a sudden becomes super huge. You can also do that with Silversmith too, though. A 1/1 Spell Shaper for 2 mana. Pay 1, tap, discard a card. You make a 1/1 colorless silver artifact creature token named Metallic Sliver. And essentially, you are able to, again, go wide while also getting certain things from your hand into your graveyard, which can get you to that number that you need to with your commander. Or you can just, play certain massive cards that are giant threats early on if you need to, like an Ancient Stone Idol. Again, this is 10 mana, but you're never going to pay that. But 10 mana when you get in your graveyard, that's amazing. That is 1/10 of the way there, or 1/3 of the way there, I should say. It's 10 mana. 12/12 golem for 10 mana flash. Costs 1 less cast for each attack creature. It's got trample. When it dies, create a 6/12 colorless construct artifact creature with trample. So basically, a way to just flash this in, whether you're attacking or the opponent's attacking, get a giant creature in play. When it dies, awesome. It's in your graveyard, which is nice for your commander, but also, replace itself in a way. Or how about Metalwork Colossus? You basically never pay for this. A 10/10 construct for 11 mana. Costs X less to cast for the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. By sacrificing 2, you bring it back from your graveyard to your hand. So 11 mana out of your graveyard, though. That is, of course, huge for your commander. And, of course, also just a massive threat in and of itself, essentially. Potentially for free for you early on in the game. That being said, again, a crazy off-the-wall commander that, again, is absolutely incredible, allowing you to utilize some really cool and really just obscure cards. So colorless is a bit of a different kind of beast, and I thought that this was a good pick, a fun pick for the ultimate colorless commander, which is, again, technically not a color, but technically a color for this episode's sake. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.